Hello and welcome. Today we'll talk is China quietly rewriting the rules of global power? How true is that? So China has not fought a major war since 1979, yet in 2024 it became the largest trading partner for more than 120 countries. Interesting. It accounts for roughly 30% of global manufacturing output. The United States accounts for about half of that. China processes around 60 to 70% of the world's rare earth minerals and over 80% of rare earth refining. These materials power F-35 jets, electric vehicles, and advanced missile systems. So now stop for a moment. What happens if your strategic competitor controls the materials behind your defense system? This is not a future scenario. This is the current global structure of global power. So the real question is not whether China is rising. The question is actually whether the United States fully understands how the competition has changed, how the rules are changed. This is not a Cold War. In the 1980s, if you remember, the Soviet Union challenged United States of America with tanks and an ideology. Today, China challenges America with trade, infrastructure, and supply chains. In 2001, when China joined the World Trade Organization, its share of global export was around 4%. By 2023, that number was above 14%. Over 2 decades, China moved from the margins of global trade to its center. So that shift did not happen through war. It happened through integration. And integration creates dependency. Very simple. So the manufacturing shock is an interesting concept. In 2020, during the pandemic, United States of America discovered that about 72% of active pharmaceutical ingredients are manufacturing overseas, and they were linked to China and India. Personal protective gears and equipment shortages exposed another reality in the US. Supply chains are not abstract economies, they are national security. So today, China produces more steel, more cement, more ships, and more consumer electronics than any other country in the world. It builds roughly half of the world's ships. That's massive. Let's sink in. Sea power has always defined global influence. Now, shipbuilding capacity is concentrated in Asia, and that matter in any prolonged strategic competition. So another important element which is very important to discuss is the rare earth leverage, and China is using this tool very effectively. So rare earth minerals are not actually rare according to their name, but processing them is complex, toxic, and quite expensive. China invested heavily in refining these rare earth minerals in 1990s and 2000s, while Western countries reduced domestic production. By the early 2010s, China controlled nearly 90% of global rare earth processing. The number has shifted slightly, but China still dominates. In 2010, during a diplomatic dispute with Japan, China restricted rare earth exports. Prices surged. That was a warning shot. No missiles, no wars, just materials. If tension escalate in the Taiwan Strait, what tools might be used first? Sanctions? No. Or export controls? Yes. Economic warfare is quieter but often more effective. And China is using this tool effectively. Another important area is Belt and Road expansion. So since 2013, China's Belt and Road Initiative has financed infrastructures in more than 140 countries in the entire world. It estimates vary, but total commitments exceed $1 trillion. Ports in Pakistan, railways in East Africa, energy projects in Central Asia, telecommunication networks across multiple continents. That's huge. So these projects create long-term financial and logistical ties between these countries and China. When countries depend on Chinese financing for critical infrastructure, their foreign policy becomes more cautious, not necessarily pro-China, but less exclusively aligned with Washington the way it was happening in the past. That is influence through structure which China has achieved. Technology and standard are also areas where China is progressing. China is investing billions of dollars in artificial intelligence, quantum research, green energy, and semiconductor independence. What does that mean? In electric vehicle, Chinese firms now account for more than half of global EV sales. In battery production, China controls over 70% of global lithium-ion battery manufacturing and capacity. So if future transportation runs on batteries and battery supply chain runs through China, what does that mean for economic leverage? Standards set today determine markets tomorrow. And that's a very simple rule. And markets determine political weight. So here comes the $1 million question, the dollar question. So the US dollar remains dominant, no doubt about it. Roughly 58% of global foreign exchange, yes. Reserve are still held in dollars. That is unmatched, but that figure was above 70% around 2 decades ago. So gradual erosion does not look dramatic, but gradual erosion changes bargaining power. China is promoting trade settlements in yuan with several partners. It is not replacing the dollar, not yet, but it is reducing exclusive dependency on dollar. And that is the theme of this entire shift. Not replacement, reduction of reliance. So now what is the strategic reality? China does not need to defeat the United States military or militarily. They are simply not interested. It needs to ensure that the world has options. If Europe trades with China, if Africa finances infrastructure with China, and if Latin America exports commodities to China, then American leverage becomes one of several centers of gravity, I would say. So that is a multipolar world now. And in a multipolar world, the ability to coerce, sanctions, or isolate is not possible. So because there are a lot of other options. So again, question comes, is America losing? In my opinion, not yet. The US still leads in military power, alliance networks, innovation ecosystem, and American universities are really doing good, attracting global talent. Silicon Valley remains technology hub. NATO remains the strongest military alliance in history. But dominance is no longer automatic. Competition is now structural. And structural competition is slow, persistent, and hard to reverse. So the danger is not dramatic collapse of United States. The danger is complacency. Because while headline focus on crisis, structural shift continues quietly in the background. And by the time they become obvious, they are already embedded. That is the nature of modern power competition. So, if this analysis sharpened your understanding of US-China rivalry, please subscribe this channel and watch